The Silent Sentinel. The Meridian Collective's scout ship emerged from fold space at the edge of Sol system, its sensors immediately scanning the seemingly peaceful expanse before them. Captain Zarix, a veteran of countless exploration missions, felt something different about this system. The historical records showed that humanity had retreated into isolation after their disastrous first contact with the Proxima species nearly 50 years ago. Most assumed they had regressed, turning inward to lick their wounds. The quantum sensors aboard the Meridian vessel detected something unusual almost immediately. Traces of advanced technology that shouldn't exist in a system that had supposedly withdrawn from galactic affairs. Captain Zarix's crystalline appendages shifted color, a sign of growing concern among his species. Analysis complete, Captain. First observer Krtol reported, her neural interfaces pulsing with data. We're detecting remnants of quantum wake signatures throughout the system. They're unlike anything in our database. Zarix moved closer to the holographic display, his crystalline form refracting the light in patterns of deep thought. The collective had dismissed Earth as a minor power after their retreat, but these readings suggested otherwise. Scattered throughout the solar system were traces of technology that by all rights, humanity shouldn't possess for at least another century. Impossible, he muttered, more to himself than his crew. Their last recorded engagement showed primitive fusion drives and basic shield technology. These readings suggest. He trailed off, unwilling to voice his suspicions. The bridge crew worked in silence, each member of the different species that made up the Meridian Collective processing the information through their unique sensory organs. The humans had been isolated for 50 years, yes, but what had they been doing during that time? A sudden alert cut through the tense atmosphere. Captain, multiple quantum signatures detected. Something's coming out of fold space. Before Zarix could respond, space itself seemed to ripple. A massive vessel emerged from what appeared to be a tear in reality itself. It was unlike anything the collective had ever encountered. Not sleek and crystalline like their own ships, nor organic like the Biomet Confederation's vessels. This ship appeared to be built from layers of overlapping quantum fields, its very structure seeming to exist in multiple states simultaneously. By the first light, Krtol whispered, her neural interfaces flickering rapidly. That's not possible. The energy readings, they're off our scales. The human vessel hung in space, its surface rippling with patterns that seemed to defy physics itself. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like watching a star being born. Zarix felt his crystalline form vibrate in response to the quantum energies emanating from the ship. Incoming transmission. The communications officer announced, their tentacles writhing in agitation. It's in perfect collective standard. The voice filled the bridge, calm and confident. Meridian vessel, you have entered restricted space. This is the TNS Prometheus, Earth Defense Force. You are conducting unauthorized surveillance of the sovereign system. Please state your intentions. Zarix felt his crew's attention focus on him. This was not how first contact with an isolated species was supposed to go. The humans shouldn't have this level of technology. They shouldn't be able to detect their stealth systems. They shouldn't be able to communicate in collective standard. This is Captain Zarix of the Meridian Collective Scout Vessel Eternal Dawn. We are conducting a standard survey mission, as per Galactic Protocol 7.3. There was a pause, and when the human voice returned, it carried a hint of amusement. Protocol 7.3 was superseded by the Rigel Accords 15 years ago, Captain. Your presence here violates several current treaties. However, we are willing to overlook this transgression. This time. Zarix's crystalline form shifted to a deep blue of confusion. How did they know about the Rigel Accords? Earth hadn't participated in galactic politics for decades. Unless. We've been watching, Captain. The human continued as if reading his thoughts. Our isolation was a choice, not a necessity. You should inform your superiors that the old reports about Earth's capabilities are outdated. As if to emphasize the point, Several more quantum ruptures appeared around the Prometheus, each birthing another vessel of similar design. The ships moved with impossible precision, forming a perfect geometric pattern around the scout vessel. "We will escort you to the system boundary," the human commander stated. "And Captain, do remind the collective that appearances can be deceiving. Earth's isolation ends today, but it ends on our terms." As their ship was guided firmly but politely to the edge of the solar system, Zar-X realized that everything the collective thought they knew about humanity was wrong. They hadn't retreated in weakness. They had withdrawn to evolve. And now, 50 years later, they were revealing themselves as something entirely new. The implications were staggering. The collective would need to completely reassess their understanding of human potential. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Zar-X wondered if perhaps that had been humanity's plan all along. Echoes of innovation. The Meridian Collective's War Council gathered in their crystalline chamber, the news from Captain Zar-X's scout mission sending ripples of concern through their ranks. High Commander Velthera, her crystalline form pulsing with deep purple hues of agitation, addressed the assembled leaders. "The humans have deceived us all," she declared, projecting the quantum readings from the scout mission. "While we dismissed them as primitive isolationists, they were developing technologies that rival or exceed our own. We cannot allow this to continue." The decision was swift. The collective would launch an immediate assault on Earth's outer colonies. They had to contain this threat before humanity could fully emerge from isolation. Within days, a fleet of 30 warships, representing the finest technology the collective possessed, entered fold space bound for the human colony of New Eden. They emerged expecting an easy victory. What they found instead would change the course of galactic history. The human colony appeared defenseless at first, a handful of orbital platforms and what seemed to be civilian vessels. High Commander Velthera allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Perhaps the scout mission had overestimated the human threat after all. "All ships, battle formation," she commanded. "Begin the assault sequence." The collective fleet moved forward in perfect synchronization, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the light of New Eden's sun. That's when everything went wrong. The supposedly civilian ships suddenly shifted, their forms rippling like water. The quantum signatures that had puzzled Captain Zar-X now made terrible sense. These vessels existed in multiple states simultaneously, and the collective's sensors couldn't get a lock on their true form. "Impossible," Velthera whispered as the human ships seemed to phase through the first volley of collective weapons fire. The energy beams passed harmlessly through them, as if they were shooting at ghosts. A calm voice came over the command channel. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Your aggressive action against our colony constitutes an act of war. We will respond accordingly." The human ships moved with unprecedented agility, their quantum phase technology allowing them to exist partially in normal space and partially in fold space simultaneously. The collective's targeting systems were useless against vessels that could literally shift between dimensional states at will. "How are they doing this?" Velthera demanded as another of her ships reported critical damage. The humans weren't just evading. They were attacking with weapons that seemed to ignore traditional shields entirely. "Analysis suggests their weapons are phase-shifted," her science officer reported, crystal form flickering with excitement despite the situation. "They're firing from multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Our shields can't block what they can't fully detect." The battle quickly turned into a rout, but not in the way the collective had anticipated. Human ships danced through their formation, their weapons striking from impossible angles. Traditional space combat doctrine proved useless against an enemy that could partially exist in fold space while fighting. "They're not just using advanced technology," Velthera realized as she watched another of her ships fall to the human assault. "They're fighting differently. Every species we've encountered tries to match our technological level, to beat us at our own game. The humans, they've developed entirely new ways of thinking about space combat." As if to prove her point, the orbital platforms around New Eden suddenly activated, revealing themselves to be quantum anchor points. A web of energy formed between them, creating a local space-time distortion that trapped several collective ships in a pocket of slowed time. Full retreat, Velthera ordered, her crystalline form now a pale blue of defeat. All ships, emergency fold space jump. As the remaining collective ships fled, Admiral Chen's voice came over the channel one last time. Consider this a demonstration. High Commander, we didn't spend 50 years hiding. We spent it preparing. The galaxy is about to change, and the collective can either adapt or become obsolete. The battle for New Eden lasted less than an hour, but its implications would echo across the galaxy. The Meridian Collective, long considered one of the most advanced civilizations in known space, had just been handed a decisive defeat by a species they had dismissed as primitive isolationists. As Velthera's damaged fleet limped home through fold space, she knew that everything was about to change. The humans hadn't just developed new technology. They had fundamentally reimagined what was possible. The real question now was, what else had they developed during their long isolation? The adaptive edge. The collective's research facility on Proxima Station hummed with activity as scientists from a dozen species examined the debris from the New Eden battle. Dr. Nick Sari, the station's lead researcher, manipulated the holographic display with her tendrils, studying the quantum signatures left by the human weapons. Fascinating, she whispered, her bioluminescent spots pulsing with excitement. They've somehow managed to stabilize quantum uncertainty at a macroscopic level. But there's something else. She zoomed in on a particular energy pattern, her spots suddenly dimming. This is impossible. Her assistant, a young crystalline being named Tolrex, moved closer. What have you found? These energy signatures, Nick Sari said, her voice trembling. They're based on our own phase shift technology, but they've been modified, improved. The humans didn't just develop this technology independently. They took our concepts and made them better. The revelation spread through the collective's leadership like a shockwave. Humanity hadn't just hidden away and developed their own technology. They had been studying every piece of alien technology they could find, reverse engineering it, and improving upon it in ways the original designers had never imagined. Meanwhile, on Earth's Quantum Defense Command Station, Admiral Chen stood before a holographic display of her own, watching as the collective's response fleet assembled at their forward bases. Next to her, Dr. James Wong, Earth's leading quantum physicist, studied the incoming data. They're modifying their shields, he noted, his augmented eyes processing the information streams. Trying to adapt to our phase shift weapons, but they're still thinking linearly. He smiled, tapping a sequence into his neural interface. They haven't realized that we're not just copying their technology. We're evolving it. Across human space, automated fabrication systems were already implementing the latest innovations. Earth's quantum defense grid, hidden in dimensional pocket space for decades, continued to grow and adapt. Each encounter with alien technology provided new data, new possibilities, new ways to push the boundaries of what was possible. The collective launched their next attack 3 days later, targeting multiple human colonies simultaneously. Their ships now carried modified shields, designed specifically to counter the phase shift weapons that had proved so devastating at New Eden. But humanity had already moved on. As the collective fleet engaged the human defenders at Alpha Centauri, they found themselves facing an enemy that had already adapted to their countermeasures. The human ships now projected quantum entanglement fields, linking their vessels in ways that made them function as a single coordinated entity. When the collective fired on one ship, the energy was instantly distributed across the entire human fleet, making individual ships virtually impossible to disable. They're not just improving the technology, High Commander Velthera realized as she watched another battle turn against her forces. They're fundamentally changing how it works. Every time we adapt, they're already 3 steps ahead. The battle for Alpha Centauri became a lesson in human innovation. When the collective deployed their new quantum-resistant shields, The humans responded with weapons that used the shield's own energy against them. When the collective tried to jam human communications, they discovered that Earth's ships could communicate through quantum entanglement, making traditional interference impossible. Back on Proxima Station, Dr. Nixeri reviewed the battle data with growing amazement. "Look at this," she said, highlighting a particular sequence. "They're not just using technology. They're combining different systems in ways we never considered. They've taken principles from a dozen different species and merged them into something entirely new." The collective's leadership faced an uncomfortable truth. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their ability to adapt and innovate at an unprecedented rate. Every engagement provided them with new data, new technologies to study and improve upon. The 50 years of isolation hadn't just been about developing new weapons. It had been about creating a scientific and industrial base capable of continuous, rapid innovation. As the battles continued across human space, Earth's defensive capabilities grew exponentially. The quantum defense grid expanded, incorporating new technologies and strategies with each encounter. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were learning from every engagement, evolving their capabilities in real time. "We need to end this quickly," Velthera told the War Council. "The longer this conflict continues, the stronger they become. They're not just fighting us. They're learning from us, adapting, becoming something new." But as the collective prepared for what they hoped would be a decisive strike, humanity was already preparing their next innovation. The quantum defense grid was about to reveal its true purpose, and the galaxy was about to learn why 50 years of human isolation had been merely the prelude to something far greater. Breaking point. The collective's grand fleet emerged from fold space in waves, over 300 ships strong. The crystalline vessels filled the space around Sol system, their hulls gleaming with enhanced quantum shielding and upgraded weapons. High Commander Velthera had committed every available resource to this final assault. "No more games," she announced to the assembled fleet. "Today we end the human threat once and for all." The human defense forces seemed minimal at first, a scattered collection of ships and stations around Earth and its colonies. But Velthera had learned not to trust appearances where humans were concerned. Her crystalline form pulsed with determined purple hues as she gave the order to advance. Deep within Earth's Quantum Defense Command, Admiral Chen watched the incoming fleet with an almost serene expression. "They still don't understand," she said to her staff. "They think this is about ships and weapons." She nodded to Dr. Wang. "Show them what 50 years of preparation really means." Dr. Wang's augmented fingers danced across quantum-linked interfaces, initiating full grid activation. All nodes coming online. Across the solar system, thousands of quantum nodes hidden in pocket space began to activate. Each node had been gathering and storing quantum energy for decades, building up a reservoir of power that defied conventional physics. As they activated, space itself seemed to ripple and fold. The collective fleet's sensors went wild, as reality itself appeared to fragment around them. The quantum defense grid wasn't just a network of weapons. It was a system for manipulating the fundamental fabric of space-time throughout the entire solar system. By the first light, Velthera whispered as she watched space itself seem to crystallize around her fleet. "What have they done?" The answer came in the form of a system-wide transmission from Admiral Chen. "Your ships are now enclosed in a quantum crystal lattice. Each section can be independently manipulated. We control local space-time within each segment. This is your final warning. Withdraw, or we will demonstrate the full capabilities of the grid." Several collective ships attempted to escape through fold space, only to find their jump points collapsing before they could form. The humans had turned the entire solar system into a quantum computer, with their fleet trapped inside it. Velthera's pride wouldn't let her retreat. "All ships, open fire, maximum yield." The collective fleet unleashed their full arsenal, only to watch in horror as their weapons fire was caught in temporal eddies, redirected through quantum mirrors, or simply ceased to exist as local space-time constants were adjusted around them. That's when Earth's ships began their true assault. Using the quantum grid as an amplifier, each human vessel could tap into the stored energy of multiple nodes. Their weapons weren't just phase-shifted anymore. They were bending probability itself, striking from multiple potential futures simultaneously. Impossible, Velthera's science officer reported, his crystalline form practically vibrating with stress. They're using the grid to calculate and execute attacks from probabilistic futures before they even happen. We can't defend against weapons that strike from timelines that haven't occurred yet. The battle quickly turned into a desperate fight for survival. The collected ships found themselves trapped in a three-dimensional chess game where their opponent could see every possible move before it happened. Human vessels seemed to anticipate every maneuver, every tactical decision, countering them before they were even executed. This isn't just technology, Velthera realized as she watched her fleet being systematically dismantled. This is evolution. They've transcended conventional warfare entirely. The quantum grid continued to tighten its grip, subdividing space into smaller and smaller segments, each under precise human control. Ships that refused to surrender found themselves trapped in temporal bubbles, their crews experiencing years in the space of seconds as local time dilation was pushed to its limits. As the battle reached its crescendo, Dr. Wong turned to Admiral Chen. Should we show them the grid's true purpose? Chen shook her head. Not yet. Let them think this is all we can do. They need to understand that retreating isn't just their best option, it's their only option. The battle for Sol System lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, more than half of the collective's fleet had been captured in temporal stasis, their crews trapped in moments of frozen time. The rest were in full retreat, their proud ships limping back through hastily calculated fold space vectors. As Velthera's flagship fled the system, she received one final transmission from Admiral Chen. This was a demonstration, Commander. The grid isn't just a defense system. It's humanity's first step towards something much greater. Consider carefully what that means for the future of our galaxy. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't just been hiding during their isolation. They had been transcending the very boundaries of what their enemies thought possible, and they weren't finished evolving yet. Evolution's children. The Meridian Collective's ruling council gathered in their grand crystal chamber, the news of their fleet's defeat sending tremors through the assembled leaders. The holographic displays showed the extent of their losses, half their fleet trapped in temporal stasis, the rest scattered and broken. The humans must be stopped. First Speaker Ixel declared, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red hues. We should call upon the other galactic powers. Surely they will see the threat. The chamber's quantum sensors suddenly flared to life, interrupting his speech. In the center of the room, a holographic projection appeared. Admiral Sarah Chen, standing calmly as if she were physically present. There's no need for that, she said, her image crystal clear despite being transmitted across thousands of light years. We're not your enemy, First Speaker. We never were. How dare you intrude? Ixel began, but Chen raised her hand, and suddenly the chamber's own systems responded to her gesture, bringing up new displays. For 50 years, you thought we were hiding, she continued. The truth is, we were building. Not weapons, not defenses, but a bridge to the next stage of galactic evolution. The displays showed impossible readings, entire sectors of space seemingly interconnected through quantum networks that shouldn't exist. Dr. Wong appeared beside her, his augmented eyes glowing softly. The quantum defense grid was never meant to be just a weapon. It's a prototype, a proof of concept for something far greater. The displays shifted, showing a vast network of quantum nodes extending far beyond Earth's solar system. We've been seeding these nodes throughout the galaxy for decades, Chen explained, each one capable of manipulating local spacetime, each one part of a greater whole. What are you saying? Velthera asked, having joined the council after her defeat at Earth. We're saying that the age of conventional space travel, of wars over territory and resources, is ending, Wong answered. The quantum network we're building will allow instant transportation between any 2 points in space, energy generation beyond anything currently possible, the ability to terraform dead worlds in days rather than centuries. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't been developing weapons of war. They had been revolutionizing the very foundations of galactic civilization. Your attack forced us to reveal our progress earlier than planned, Chen continued. But perhaps that's for the best. The galaxy is changing, and we want you to be part of that change. Not as enemies, not as competitors, but as partners in evolution. The displays showed more: planets being transformed, vast energy networks spanning between stars, ships moving through quantum corridors that bypassed normal space entirely. Impossible, one of the council members whispered. The energy requirements alone. Impossible, Wang smiled. We've learned that's just another word for not yet. The quantum network doesn't just connect space. It taps into the fundamental energy of reality itself. Every node adds to the whole, making the network stronger, more stable. Why reveal this to us now? Velthera asked, her crystalline form shifting to colors of curiosity and wonder. Because the network is ready for its next phase, Chen answered. But we can't build it alone. The technology we've developed, the quantum manipulation, the space-time engineering, it's too powerful for any one species to control. We need partners, equals who understand both the potential and the responsibility. The chamber erupted in discussion, but Chen raised her hand again. You have a choice to make. You can continue to see us as a threat, gather your allies, and wage a war that will ultimately benefit no one. Or you can join us in building something greater than any single civilization could achieve alone. She gestured, and the displays showed one final image. A galaxy transformed, interconnected, evolved beyond the petty conflicts of the past. This is what we spent 50 years working toward. Not isolation, not superiority, but transcendence, for everyone. The council chamber fell silent again, but this time the silence was different. The fear and anger had been replaced by something else. Hope, possibility, the glimmer of a future beyond their imagining. First speaker Ixel stepped forward, his crystalline form now glowing with the soft blue of acceptance. You didn't just advance your technology, he said slowly. You advanced your thinking. While we saw enemies and threats, you saw potential and unity. That's the real difference between us. Chen smiled. You saw our isolation as weakness, our differences as barriers. We saw them as opportunities to grow, to learn, to become something more. And now we're offering you the chance to grow with us. As the council began their deliberations, Chen and Wang shared a knowing look. The next phase was beginning. Humanity had emerged from its cocoon not as a butterfly, but as something entirely new, pioneers of a transformation that would reshape the very fabric of galactic civilization. The age of isolation was over. The age of evolution had begun. The end.